Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with Jide. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, we'll be talking about the factors that will determine the outcome of the governorship elections in 28 states. Remember, in the course of the program, we will always like to read your comments and also have your comments under our chat box. I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself, Babajide Koladiditoju. It's good to see you as we prognosticate on the issues that will shape the elections as it's being conducted nationwide.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for doing this with me on a day like this.
Right. Talk to us about the issues for you for these elections.
Yeah, this election is very important for a number of reasons. INEC did very well by way of ensuring that the election that we had, the presidential election, was a big improvement over previous elections. In terms of the credibility of the election, that was a massive, massive improvement over previous elections. I have witnessed a number of elections in my time in this world, 1979, 1983, 1999. I even covered the 1999 election as a journalist. The 1993 election, I covered it as well as a journalist in Kano. So when I say this last election was a big improvement over previous elections, I know what I'm talking about. And I'm not influenced by sentiment that people are banding about that this was the worst election that we've had. Whoever says it's the worst election that we've had must be someone who had not witnessed many elections in this country. Today we have beavers working. Beavers worked at 85% optimum level during the presidential election, and for that reason, we could say, yes, beavers scored a pass mark. Beavers helped us to ensure that the usual overvoting, the usual use of incident form, which enable politicians to rig the process, was thrown out of the window. So you had to be accredited to take part in the election before you can be part of the election. Beavers ensured that. So overvoting was thrown out of the window. And that's why you saw that in those states where in the past we had more than 1 million votes going to some candidates, this time around, they were even struggling to score 250,000 votes. That's to tell you that in previous elections, they simply sat down and concocted figures, confected figures. This time around, you cannot simply write those figures. And if there's overvoting in your polling station, the Electoral Act stipulates that the election in that polling station should be cancelled. And beavers, from what we have seen in Osun State, nothing exposes overvoting like beavers, because the beavers report will show clearly the disconnect between the number of accredited voters and the actual votes cast. So I'm very happy that we are getting there. Gradually, we are getting there. Our elections are reflecting the wish of our people. Look at the way our people voted in the Southeast for Peter Obi of the Labour Party. No one can tell me that that was not what our people wanted. Elections will always have irregularities, but the important thing is for the wish of the people to prevail. The people spoke in one voice in the southeast of Nigeria, and Peter Obi was elected with impressive margins in those areas, impressive vote tallies. That is very important. Across the country too, in the Muslim and the Christian dominated states, again, Peter Obi did very well. He won in a good number of the Christian dominated states, whether in northern Nigeria or in the south. He won 11 states and FCT, 11 plus 1 FCT. The FCT is not a state. The FCT is an administrative center. No one should call the FCT a state. If it was meant to be a state, the Constitution will have listed him among the 37 states of Nigeria. No amount of argument can turn the FCT to a state. But the law also recognizes that if you win 25%, if you score 25% and above in the FCT, it will be counted for you as having won 25% and above in one of the states of our country. So for the purpose of electing a president, and for the purpose of achieving 25%, the FCT is regarded as playing the role of a state, but it remains what it is. It's an administrative center. It is under the control of the president. His budget is prepared and his budget is approved by the National Assembly. It does not have a sitting governor. It has a minister that runs its affairs. All the characteristics of a state when it comes to the FCT are missing. People should not try to, for the sake of seeking to win an argument,
absolutely
try to make the FCT look like a state. Somebody argued with me that you said Peter Obi won 11 states and FCT. I said, yes, that's what it is. Because the Constitution says, and FCT. It will have counted the FCT among as the 37th Nigerian state if it was meant to be a state. But it's not a state, it's an administrative center, and it will never be seen. It doesn't have local governments. They do not conduct election into, it does not have its own parliament, just as states have parliament. Election is not conducted into its like House of Assembly election and all that. So it's a baseless argument really, but in this season, people sometimes want to win arguments without the basis for it. So we'll leave it as it is. But looking at what transpired on the 25th of February, 25 Nigerian governors failed to deliver their states to their presidential candidates. 20 states lost by sitting governors. Okay. It is significant. It has never happened in Nigerian history.
Right.
7 governors also failed in their bids to get into the National Assembly. You know, Ibrahim, that they've always said that National Assembly has become the retirement home of Nigerian government.
Right.
Now, for 7 of them to lose, that should tell you that even that one is about to change, or you know, so it reflects the fact that the election was competitive. No one can argue that that election was not competitive. Atiku won 12 states, Tinubu won 12 states, Obi won 11 states and FCT. You know, so that election was competitive as we thought it would be. And then for those governors, despite their powers, despite their influence, to have lost their bids to enter the National Assembly. You can imagine the governor of Plateau State, the man who was the Director General of Tinubu's campaign. He not only lost his state, he lost his desire to get into the Senate. This was a tremendous election where the Nigerian people spoke, and they spoke poignantly. Their voices were heard. And the fact that there is quiet in so many parts of our country about the conduct of the election, save for a few places where there is so much noise about non-transmission, that's to tell you that generally Nigerians were happy with the way this election went. Sometimes we can mistake the noisiness of the minority for and take it as the representative of the majority. It's not. Sometimes the minority can be very vocal, and then people can be wrong-footed to think that, oh, this is actually how everybody is thinking. But the truth is what it is. 20 governors losing their states in the presidential election.
Absolutely.
It's tremendous. I've never seen anything like that. And anyone who says this is the worst election, because I know that is the story that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party is saying, but he needs to come out and show to us that indeed this was the worst. It's not enough to just say it. You have to prove that it was the worst election. And as a historian, you can't stand before me and successfully convince me that this was the worst election in recent times. That's absolute fallacy. It's not, it does not, what happened on that day with one of the most powerful governors in our country, El-Rufai, losing the state by wide margin. You cannot tell me that that election was so bad as you are trying to portray it.
It's possible.
But
it's possible.
You know, there is room for improvement, especially in the area of the deployment of logistics. We also expect that this next election, INEC will be able to transmit results electronically in real time, in good enough time, and they will be able to protect the INEC portal against being hacked, against being attacked by cyber criminals.
Correct. So could it be that those who actually didn't win the election, even though they jubilate that they won in different places, but then they celebrate, they celebrate the places that they won, and they condemn the election in places that they lost? Could it mean that they realize that the election, just like you described it, is something to be described as a free and fair election and an improvement on the previous elections, but just to create impression that the reason why they lost was because of the irregularities that they alleged?
You know, the stakes were high before this election, and the opinion poll largely favored Peter Obi. But when you are polling only people who have access to phones, smartphones, and the rest, this is what you get. A lot of the ordinary people were not involved in the polling that gave Obi such a big gap over others. For example, Obi was even polled and given advantage over Kwankwaso in Kano, and I said it was ridiculous. So where did Obi end up in Kano at the end of the day? To show you that those opinion polls were just ridiculous. Anyone who imagined that Obi would defeat Kwankwaso in Kano needs to have his head examined. I mean, that's taking a joke too far. And we saw in the eventual outcome, it was an annihilation. It was like Labour Party didn't exist in Kano, because the gap between Labour Party and the first two parties,
right,
the NNPP and APC, was so wide, and that was a place where they even expected him to win. So people who came up with this kind of opinion polls were just, it's like they were having fun. They didn't know what they were doing.
Absolutely. So, Biko, what are the issues for you this governorship election that is ongoing, what are the states to watch out for? Although you've made some sort of prognosis regarding the events that might shape different states, what are the states that you're really watching out? You're really keeping your eye on?
Okay. There are no less than 12 states where we really have to really keep our eyes on: Lagos, Gombe, Kaduna, Abia, Delta, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Kano, Ogun, Anambra, Enugu, Ebonyi, Benue, and Oyo. I think that's like 13 states or so. Now, Anambra is one state to watch. I can even put Edo in the mix. In Anambra and Edo, we are not going to have governorship elections, but the House of Assembly elections in those two states will be keenly contested. The two governors are working very hard to gain control of the House in the aftermath of this round of elections. The Edo State governor has been begging voters, including market women, to vote for his party, the PDP. PDP came third in the presidential election in Edo State. APC did much better. The governor has been running the House in the state. He's been running the government with just about 9 or so House of Assembly members. He did not allow Assembly members that he felt would be opposed to him to get into the House. The Speaker of the House was elected in the absence of an overwhelming majority of the Assembly members. And they not only did that, they had them suspended. So those guys who are not inaugurated, they've not been earning salary, they've been kept at home, unable to serve their constituencies or their constituents. So now the governor feels that if he does not control the House, he could be impeached. So he's begging, he's running from pillar to post. Then in Anambra, Governor Soludo had criticized Peter Obi when Peter Obi took the decision to contest for the presidency. He told him that the best that he can achieve is either third or fourth position. This angered Peter Obi and his supporters, and they want to make sure that they populate the House of Assembly in Anambra State and put Soludo in trouble, probably even impeach him if they can muster the numbers. Now, Soludo has been running around trying his best to get ABGA supporters to vote for him, to vote for the candidates of the party so that they can retain control of the House. He continues to say that it will not be fair to let ABGA die, that ABGA was a gift that Ojukwu gave to the Southeast. So those two elections are important because the two governors are in a battle for survival. And they know that if the opposition takes control of the House, their days could be numbered. Or even if they are not impeached, life will be made unbearable for them. So that is that. And now, of course, we have Lagos. It's a big battle between the Labour Party, which won the presidential election in Lagos, and the APC, the ruling party in the state. Governor Sanwo-Olu too has been running from pillar to post. He doesn't want to be unseated. The tendency, the particular tendency has dominated politics in Lagos State since 1999. It will be a tragedy for them if Labour Party defeats them this time around. So They are doing everything possible to ensure that that does not happen. So that's one place to look out for. In Gombe, the political godfather of that state and the governor are quarreling with one another. The governor has to be reconciled with Senator Danjuma Aguje. Otherwise, the governor could lose the election. So that is one state to watch. Probably they'll be able to resolve their dispute. Otherwise, the governor of Gombe may be on his way out. Remember, APC lost the presidential election in that state. In Kaduna, Governor El-Rufai lost the presidential election. He couldn't deliver the state. Ashiru, the man that he defeated during the primaries in 2014, is contesting again on the platform of PDP. He moved to PDP. And PDP won the election, won the presidential election in Kaduna with a handsome margin. They also dominated the National Assembly election. So Kaduna is a state to watch out for. The ruling APC will have to work very hard to ensure that they keep Kaduna state. But anything could happen in Kaduna, although it will appear that the ruling party has a slight edge. Then Abia, this could be the opportunity that Labour Party has been waiting for. The governor of Abia State contested for the senatorial seat, was defeated by Senator Abaribe. In fact, he was pushed into third position. That is a state waiting for the Labour Party to grab it. Then, of course, Delta, APC, the battle is going to be fierce between APC, Labour Party, and the PDP. PDP is the ruling party in Delta, but the way it's going, if they are not careful, either of APC or Labour Party may take Delta State. Labour Party
regardless of the Sheriff Oboriwori's, being featured in the news, often and often.
Yeah, because this looks like the decision of the young people, and it cuts across ethnicity. Even in Sapele, which is an Urobo community, ancient Urobo community, Labour Party won handsomely. So Labour Party is the one party to watch in that place in the governorship election. If the trend continues, then Delta may be claimed by either the APC or Labour Party. Cross River was won during the presidential election by Labour Party, but in the governorship election, I see the PDP doing quite well. I expect PDP to take the state. Akwa Ibom, PDP took Akwa Ibom during the presidential election. I expect PDP to still take it in the governorship election using currency factor and all that. Kano will be a very tough state with NNPP becoming so strong in the state. It's going to take a mighty effort for the APC to retain the state. The bulk of the support that Kwankwaso has comes from the metropolis, and the votes are largely in the metropolis. So the APC controls the hinterland, but the votes from the hinterland are not going to be sufficient for them to overtake the NNPP. So unless something unusual happens, the trend during the presidential election may continue in Kano, thereby giving NNPP the edge. I expect that in Ogun, with all the former governors now in the same party, that is the APC, I expect Prince Dapo Abiodun to take Ogun State. It's a very straightforward contest there. I think Dapo Abiodun will be too strong for the candidate of the PDP. though they come from the same senatorial zone, but it really doesn't matter.
Ladi
And
Adebutu.
the former governor of the state, Amosun, is against Dapo Abiodun, but there are far more people on Dapo Abiodun's side, to ensure that he eventually wins. Enugu is another state that we have to keep our eyes on. Nnamani, the former governor, is still very influential, and they've been saying that they want the candidate of the PDP, Peter Mba, to be the next governor of the state. Whether they will be able to, whether the Labour Party will be able to stop them, I really can't say. But I think that the PDP should be able to do its best to take Enugu State. Ebonyi, the Labour Party candidate has already stepped down for the candidate of APC. The candidate of APC is the speaker of the state. So that makes it clear cut. Don't forget that in Ebonyi State, APC won all the 3 senatorial seats. So it looks like APC is on ground in that state, and the governor is one of the best of his generation in terms of the delivery of democracy dividends. So it looks like a state that that APC can take this time around. Benue, Hyacinth earlier has become like a movement. This cleric is hugely popular. People are flocking towards him, and he was instrumental to the narrow win that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu recorded in Benue. Asiwaju Tinubu defeated the Peter Obi narrowly in the presidential election. But the governor of Benue, who supported Peter Obi during the presidential election, as his own candidate from the PDP, that's the Speaker of the state, as his candidate in this election. So he's not going to support the candidate of Labour Party this time around. So Labour will not be able to go far this time around. So the battle is between APC and PDP. But it looks to me like Benue will be taken by APC with Hyacinth earlier as the candidate of the party. Then Oyo State, finally Oyo State is going to be very dicey. In the past, I predicted that Seyi Makinde would take Oyo State, but some of the dynamics changed when the PDP candidates lost their senatorial elections, lost most of the House of Rep seats, and they've been bitter. And Seyi Makinde runs the risk of not getting their support in the governorship election, unless a miracle happens, because they thought that the governor threw them under the bus. The governor didn't care about their own election. The governor wanted people to vote for Asiwaju Tinubu. They've done that, but in the process, they went and also voted for APC in the National Assembly elections. This is too difficult to take for the PDP candidates who lost the National Assembly elections, and a good number of them are vowing to work against the governor. Unless they are pacified, it could ensure that Governor Seyi Makinde does not get re-elected. But the Olubadan Council is behind Governor Seyi Makinde. I think he still has the edge. He still has the edge. But it's an election that could go either way at this stage, given the mistake that was made during the presidential election. But I still fancy less chances of retaining the state. And then don't forget Rivers. Rivers and Nasarawa. Nasarawa, if care is not taken, APC could lose Nasarawa, because now the dominant tribe in the states, they are rooting for the candidate of the PDP. This is the first time this has happened, and they have the numbers. you saw that SDP took 2 senatorial seats in the National Assembly election. That is a sign that all is well for the APC in Nasarawa State. Labour Party won the election in the presidential election in that state, but Labour Party has not got a strong governorship candidate at this time. So the governor and the PDP candidate, the APC and PDP, are going to struggle amongst themselves. But if the pattern of voting during the presidential election continues, then the incumbent governor of Nasarawa State is in trouble. Rivers, Wike has promised to win the governorship election, but I know that Labour Party also has a very huge number of supporters in that place. They may not have the structures, but they may not have the structure and the organization, but they have huge support base in Rivers. And this is a threat. Yes, and this is a threat to the Rivers State governor, who wants to ensure that his own man becomes the next governor. I think that Wike still has an edge. He has an edge in this election, and we'll be waiting to see what is capable of doing in the governorship election.
Absolutely. So, BK, we've actually run out of time, but then very lastly, and I would like you to be very short, if you could do that in less than a minute. Are you afraid that this election might be characterized with, some level of violence as much more than what we recorded in the presidential election because of the tensions that have risen to a very high level?
Yes, I think that unless our security agencies work very hard, there will be a lot of violence. We've seen that in Ibadan already. They are killing one another, APC and PDP supporters. They are killing one another in Ibadan. It has become almost a daily affair now. Now, politicians have seen that unless they physically stop their opponents from voting, that the votes will count. Beavers is no respect of anybody. Money failed to sway voters during this last election because Beavers triumphed. Now, I expect that there will be a lot of vote suppression in some states. People will be stopped from voting. We saw a lot of it in Sokoto. We saw it here in Lagos. We saw it in a number of places. So desperate governors who are seeking second term are going to do whatever it takes, frustrate the opposition, frustrate their enemy, their opponents from getting to vote, or even disrupt voting where their opponents are strong. We have to find a way to solve that problem, because that is another level of rigging, So I see violence taking place on election day. Let's not deceive ourselves.
Absolutely.
Violence, especially in the key battleground states. There's nothing we can do about it.
We hope the security...
And there will be a lot of vote cancellations.
Right. We hope the security agencies, will listen, take heed of all the advice that you've always given on this program and or other programs that you share your opinions. But then, because of our time, that's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade Studio, for those insightful analyses, as always, BKO. In less than 24 hours, we'll begin to see where the votes will definitely go.
Thank you, Brian. I wish you good luck. I wish you Godspeed, and I wish you merciful journey as you go to cover the governorship election in Ogun State. May God be with you.
Thank you very much, Biko. Thank you very kindly. And thank you to our audience for joining us on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel at TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim Shita. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.